Jacob Carter smelled smoke before he saw it. The sharp scent of burning pine and gasoline stung his nostrils the moment he stepped off his porch, his coffee still steaming in his hand. At first, he figured someone nearby might be burning brush, but as he climbed the gentle rise overlooking the southern edge of his property, his stomach sank. There, amid a swirl of dust and diesel exhaust, his handcrafted wooden bridge that had spanned the creek for nearly 10 years was being ripped apart. A backhoe clawed at it, while workers in bright orange vests tossed broken planks aside like garbage. His truck lurched as he sped down the gravel path, tires kicking up rocks. He barely hit the brakes before leaping out. "Hey!" he yelled, storming toward the chaos. "What the hell are you doing?" One of the workers glanced up, startled, then nodded toward a polished black SUV parked nearby. The door swung open, and out stepped Viv Wyan Caldwell, president of the Pinewood Estates HOA. She wore a crisp gray pantsuit, too spotless for the dusty scene, and didn't flinch as Jacob approached. Her lips were tight, as if she'd practiced this moment. "Mr. Carter," she said calmly, "this structure violates Section 12C of the HOA Code. It encroaches on shared creek access and must be removed." Jacob blinked, dumbfounded. "Encroaches? This is my land. That bridge has been here since I built it a decade ago. It's how I get equipment to the south fields. It's not on shared property." Viv Wyan raised a perfectly groomed eyebrow and handed him a folded sheet of paper new survey. "According to this, the creek marks the boundary. Your bridge crosses into HOA-managed green space. I'm just enforcing the rules." Jacob stared at the map. It was laughably wrong. The lines sliced through his property in ways that defied logic. "My grandfather's deeds show the creek runs through our land, not along it. This is nonsense." Viv Wyan's smile was thin and unshaken. "Perhaps, but the board voted. Removal's already underway. You're free to challenge it, Hoff. I hear legal fees can add up." She turned to leave, then paused, pulling a business card from her purse. "You might need this," she said, handing it over. It was for Caldwell Properties, her husband's real estate firm. "You people want to buy me out?" Jacob asked, anger flaring. "You tear down my bridge and think I'll sell?" She shrugged lightly. "Your property has potential. It's wasted on fields and livestock. We in VY shout something better, condos, maybe a golf course." Something snapped inside him. "Step foot on this land again, and I'll call it trespassing." Viv Wyan's smile turned amused. "We'll see." Her heels clicked as she returned to the SUV. Jacob stood in the dust, fists balled, as the backhoe roared, dragging the last of his bridge's timbers into a heap like a carcass. This farm was all he had left of his father, of 4 generations who'd worked the soil with sweat and soul. Now some smug woman with a fake survey thought she could steal it. He glanced at the crumpled business card, then at the smoke rising from the wreckage. They'd come quietly this time. Next time, he'd be ready. Back at the farmhouse, Jacob spread old maps across his kitchen table. Yellowed and brittle, they bore his grandfather's faded handwriting, property lines, creeks, even the spot where the first barn stood. He traced the creek's path, comparing it to Viv Wyan's glossy survey. The difference was stark. The creek flowed well within his land. Her map was a lie, plain and simple. A knock jolted him from his thoughts. He opened the door warily, expecting HOA muscle. Instead, a wiry man in his 60s stood there, cap in hand, eyes flicking nervously. "Name's Tom Wheeler," he said. "Used to work with the HOA surveyor. Retired now. Mind if I come in?" Tom stepped inside, glancing around like he feared being watched. "Heard about your bridge. That's how they start small violations, then fines, then pressure. They want you gone." Jacob's jaw tightened. Viv Wyan and her husband. Tom nodded. "Caldwell's been snapping up land around the HOA borders. Fake surveys, made up violations, whatever it takes to break people. You're not the first." "Why tell me?" "Because I should have spoken up years ago. And because you won't back down." That night, Jacob barely slept. The next morning, as he drove toward town, a county enforcement truck blocked his path. An officer handed him a citation, illegal dumping on unprotected green space, due law $5,000 fine. Jacob laughed darkly. There was no dumping, protected or otherwise. They were inventing charges now. Later, an anonymous text lit up his phone. Selling would be smarter. These people get what they want. No name, just that. Looking up, he spotted a glint on the neighbor's fence. He walked over and found a camera hidden in the ivy, aimed at his yard. It belonged to Linda, a nosy HOA loyalist. He hadn't noticed it before. How long had it been there? His stomach churned. They were watching him, tracking his every move. That night, he sat on the porch in the dark, shotgun across his lap, staring at the empty fields, waiting. The next HOA meeting was meant to be routine neighbors grumbling about grass length and mailbox colors. But Jacob stormed in like a thunderclap, clutching the fake survey in one hand and his family's deed in the other. The community center hummed with shock as he marched to the front, facing Vive Wyan head-on. She sat with her board, smug as ever. "If the creek's on your land," Jacob said, voice booming, "then I'm a resident, right? Which means I get to speak." Vive Wyan's lips twitched, but before she could protest, he slapped the deed onto the table. "My great-grandfather mapped this land when this town was nothing. This farm, this bridge, none of it crosses into HOA territory. Your survey's a lie, and a bad one." The room went quiet. Some shifted in their seats. A tall man in a faded pinewood high shirt raised his hand. "That map looks familiar," he said. "Name's Ethan Brooks. My fence got flagged for being 6 inches too close to the sidewalk. They said it encroached. I had to check they were wrong. They fined me anyway." That night, Ethan showed up at Jacob's with a cooler of beer and a stack of emails. Their talk turned into something more when Ethan said, "You're not the only one they've pushed. We've been keeping track. There's a group of us HOA White Tims. Come by tomorrow. You'll want to hear this." The next evening, Jacob stepped into Ethan's garage and found a circle of folding chairs with over a dozen neighbors waiting, familiar faces he'd rarely spoken to. An older woman with silver hair stood up. "I'm Clara," she said, voice steady but soft. "They threatened daily fines over my house's teal trim. I painted it after my husband passed. It's been that way for 30 years. A young couple described how the HOA demolished their kid's treehouse while they were on vacation. A burly man named Ray said they forced him to sell his vintage cars or face storage fees. The stories piled uppity violations, aggressive letters, surprise inspections. Clara opened a binder of documents. "I worked in city archives. Pulled the original HOA filings. 3 signatures on the board formation are forged. This HOA isn't even legal." Jacob felt the room shift, shock, anger, then unity. They weren't alone. They were targets of a years-long scheme to grab land and push people out. "We have to fight back," he said. "Together." No more silence. Nods rippled through the group, fists tapping knees, whispers turning to plans. Days later, the roar of machinery woke Jacob before dawn. He grabbed his flashlight and ran outside. A bulldozer lumbered toward the new bridge, Vive Wyan at the wheel, her face wild with fury. She didn't see him, just the bridge she couldn't control. He shouted her name, sprinting forward, but she rammed the machine into the structure. Wood splintered, metal groaned, but the reinforced beams held. Jacob yanked open the cab door as Vive Wyan shrieked, "This is mine." It took the sheriff and 2 deputies to drag her out, kicking and screaming, her pristine suit filthy with sweat and dirt. The footage caught by tree-mounted cameras spread like wildfire. Posted by Ethan, it hit local news, then national outlets. Vive Wyan, once Pinewood's iron-fisted queen, became a symbol of petty tyranny. 2 days later, Clara unearthed a bombshell, a notarized document from Jacob's father's final hospital stay, signing land over to Caldwell Properties. Except his father had been comatose when it was dated. A handwriting expert confirmed the forgery. Search warrants followed. Bank records revealed shell companies tied to Vive Wyan's husband, linked to HOA fines and forced sales. Both were arrested: fraud, conspiracy, forgery, extortion. At the arraignment, Jacob watched from the back as Vive Wyan's lawyer floundered. The judge didn't buy it. When cuffs snapped on her wrists, Jacob just exhaled. The land felt quiet again, not empty, but peaceful, like it used to be. The court's ruling was brutal and swift. Forged documents voided every deal tied to the Caldwells. Land was returned, fines refunded with interest, and the HOA dissolved. In its place, Jacob and his neighbors built a community board: open, fair, no backroom deals. Even Linda, the former snitch, showed up with cookies and an apology. She'd planted the camera under pressure, scared of losing her home. Jacob nodded. People could change. This place was changing. The bridge became the heart of it. Kids painted handprints on the railings, Ethan added solar lights, Ray brought musicians for Sunday concerts. It wasn't just a crossing Anna Maria, it was a symbol of their fight and their vie Tory. One afternoon, as laughter filled the air, Clara joined Jacob by the railing. 40 years here, she said, and I never thought I'd see this. He smiled. Took losing a bridge to build something better. She nodded. If they hadn't torn down the first, we wouldn't have this. The scars remained betrayal, lies, threats, but so did the growth. They'd faced corruption and won, not alone, but together. As the sun set and the bridge lights glowed, Jacob felt peace, not isolation, but belonging. He wasn't just a farmer anymore. He was part of a community they'd fought for, one they'd never let slip away. Jacob Carter didn't set out to be a warrior. He just wanted his coffee, his land, and his family's legacy. But when a crooked HOA tried to take it all with lies and dirty tricks, he didn't bend. He stood tall and sparked a community to rise with him. This tale's fiction, but its truth rings real. How often do we face systems we didn't choose, rules we didn't make, people who think they can crush us with cash or fear? A greedy landlord, a shady boss, a power-hungry HOA, game's the same. Obey or lose. But you don't have to break. Know your rights, like Jacob with his deeds. Dig deep, question the lies, speak out even if your voice wavers. One voice cracks the silence. A community shifts the tide. Look out for each other. Oppression thrives on isolation, but unity kills it. And hold fast to what matters: land, pride, history. Some things outweigh money. So what about you? Ever faced down a system trying to take what's yours? What did it cost? What changed? Share below, because speaking up shows others they're not alone, and one small stand can ignite a revolution.